Hello and welcome to Wednesday's edition of Cracking the Cryptic and a puzzle that our testers have been loving. This is called Crossed Paths and it's by the constructor Blobz. I've done some Blobz puzzles before and they're always a lot of fun, and apparently this one is fun. It's not meant to be that difficult, it's just got some gorgeous logic in it. A weird rule about us having to sort of create a path of the digits 1 to 9 down the grid and across the grid as well. So something a little bit different, a little bit novel, and as I say, our testers say that this is a brilliant puzzle that should bring us all a bit of joy on a drab Wednesday afternoon here in the UK. Now, how else can I cheer you up? Let me think about that. I'll do some birthdays, actually. They always make me cheerful. Rebecca, you've turned 21 today. Congratulations. And I hope that, of course, you're able to have some chocolate cake. Daniel, it's your birthday today, and I know this because your wife Aisha wrote to us. And I gather you've been cracking away or trying to crack Jay Dyer's alchemy hunt over the last few days, so good luck with that. If you've got anywhere near solving it, congratulations, and congrats to the two of you actually, because I think it's your second wedding anniversary coming up on the 10th of January, which is in under a week. Another opportunity for cake. And finally, Kai, you've turned 20 today, and I know this because your partner Larry, it could be Larry, I'm not sure, wrote to us. Anyway, I hope the two of you are able to have a brilliant day today. And of course, cake for you too. Don't let's forget that. Other than that, I just want to shout out Kimberly for your lovely email yesterday. Kimberly, I am very honoured that you named one of your cats after me. I don't know what the cat did to deserve that, but yeah, it warmed the cockles of my heart. Other than that, what to tell you about? Well, we're streaming tonight for the first time in a while. First time in 2023. Mark and I are going to be playing a game called Teji, which is apparently a 2D version of The Witness. So it should be a lot of fun. Love to have your company if you're around. I'll try and remember to put a link on the screen, but I might forget. Other than that, we've just got loads of stuff going on Patreon. There's bonus videos, there's the Phistomefel Sudoku hunt, and there is the monthly reward for January, which is this incredible hunt by Jay Dyer. So there are two hunts ongoing at the moment, one by Phistomefel, one by Jay Dyer. Those, well, they would sit in the pantheon of the greatest constructors in the world of Sudoku. So that is two fabulous things we've got going on, and very well done to the following people who solved all of the Phistomefel hunt. So Sandra and Nala, I think Nala is Sandra's pet, actually. I think it's her dog. I'm pretty sure Nala's the dog. Stuart Crichton, Jose Cusco, Harlan Fox, Vadim Elegin, could be Elegin, I don't know. Andrew Miller, Robert McNulty, Scott Nakamura, Asylum Gaming, Brighton Benson, Casey Bell, Manuela Tempestini, Ryan Walker, Orimus Draugelis, and Crystal Gert. All of you sent in the correct entries. Fabulous work indeed. Now, with everything said and done, let me read you the rules of Blobz's puzzle, and we can see what our task is going to be. Today, we have got normal Sudoku rules apply. Digits in cages do not repeat and must sum to the small clue in the top left corner of the cage. So those 4 digits sum to 13, and what we can't do... Oh, I'm on A's for some reason. I don't know why. Let's move. You can't put double 1 in there and then 5, 6. Because although those 4 digits do add up to 13, you've repeated the 1 in a cage, and that's jolly naughty, so don't do it. Now here's the weird rule. A path consisting of the digits 1 to 9 in order crosses from left to right across the grid, with each digit in its corresponding column. So 1 in column 1, 2 in column 2, etc. The cells along the path are connected orthogonally or diagonally. So orthogonally is a long word which means something very simple. It means connected by an edge. So those two cells are orthogonally connected. These two cells are not orthogonally connected. They are diagonally connected. And I think what it's saying is that when we build the path, we have got to, and if you want to draw a path like this, just turn on the pen tool. So click the settings button, the cog icon on the right hand side of your screen. if you're playing the puzzle, and that will bring up the opportunity to have a pen tool. So we have to build a path that travels, let's say this was the path, and then this would be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 is I think how it would work, because we have to move from cell to cell. So we find the 1 in column 1, the 2 in column 2, but they must be close to each other in order to be a path. If the 2 was up here, this would be wrong, because those two cells are not either orthogonally or diagonally connected. So I think that's what that's telling us. But there is one more bit of this. A similar path crosses the grid from top to bottom, starting with a 1 in row 1 and then a 2 in row 2, ending with a 9 in row 9. Again, cells along the path are connected orthogonally or diagonally. The paths which do not share cells nor appear in any cage are to be determined by the solver. Right, so that's interesting. So we can't... Right, so if that cell was on the path, you'd have to go down like that. That would have to be a 1, 2, 3 triple, which actually I can see is impossible because the mathematics of the box won't work. But yeah, that's what that means. We can't go through the cages in order to create our paths, and we can't have the paths overlapping. So if this was the downward path and that was the across path, that would not work, because that cell would be on both paths, and that's not allowed. Do have a go at the puzzle. The way to play is to click the link under the video as usual. Now I get to play. Let's get cracking. And we're going to get cracking by looking at... Well, I'm going to tell you a secret. I shouldn't do it, but I'm going to anyway, because you're definitely one of my favourite people if you're still watching this video. The secret is that this box of the Sudoku, indeed any box of a Sudoku, any row of a Sudoku, any column of a Sudoku, because of the rules of Sudoku, contains the digits 1 to 9 once each. So the digits 1 to 9 add up to 45. Don't tell anyone that, but it's true. And 45, therefore, allows us to do some maths, because if that cage adds up to 11, and that cage adds up to 11, that's 22, then to make the box add up to the right number, those 3 digits there must add up to 23, and there's only one way of making 23 in 3 different Sudoku digits, and that's with 6, 8 and 9. And we can do the same thing, look, in box 9. We've got 2 cages there that add up to 38. Which means these 3 digits have to add up to 7 with different digits, so they must be 1, 2 and 4. And which way round is our... No, these don't help with our lines, do they? Our paths. Because we're going... Once we get down to this row of the grid from the top, we're getting to 7s, 8s and 9s, which are not the same as 1s, 2s and 4s. And once we go across here, these are 1s, 2s and 3s, which are not the same as 6, 8 and 9s. So we can't use that logic yet. There must be a 1 in a 4-cell 13 cage, and we can see that because if we try and make these not have a 1 in them, let's try 2, 3, 4 and 5. Well, 2, 3, 4 and 5 add up to 14, which is not the same as 13. Okay, what I'm going to do then is I am going to highlight... I'm going to highlight all the cells that can't be on the paths, which basically means highlighting all the cages, because we're told that the paths, wherever they live, are not including these green cells. And for the reasons we said before, the paths also can't include these digits, because these simply are not the right digits to be on the path, given where they sit in the grid. So actually, that's really very interesting immediately. So that cell can't be on the path. Oh no, it can. 1, 2, 3. No, it can. Oh no, it can't. I've changed my mind again. I was thinking that couldn't be on the path. Because to be on the path has to get out of this box. And then I suddenly realised, well, it could, because it can go diagonally. It could go 1, 2, 3 and escape with a 4 here. Except if it did go 1, 2, 3, that 8 cage is now impossible to fill, because that 8 cage must be 1, 7, 2, 6 or 3, 5. So that doesn't work. So that is not the start of the horizontal path, which is interesting, because doesn't that mean I can pencil mark a 1 into one of those 3 cells? Because then the 1 in this column is the first start of the path. I've just worked out that's not there, and it's not in a green cell. So in other words, this is green. That's what we're really learning. So the 2 must be in one of those 4 cells. I don't want to do that, to be honest. I could pencil mark it, but obviously this cell is outside of this box, and that's going to confuse me. Normally when I put a corner pencil mark in a cell, I'm looking at box logic. I'm looking at the 3x3 box and saying the 1 in this 3x3 box is in one of 3 positions. So if I was to do that, that's not really true, because the 2 could be here, and that would prevent the 2 being in those 3 positions in box 7. So I don't really want to pollute my pencil marks that way. All right, I've changed my mind. I'm going to go across here, because the 9 in column 9 is definitely not in a cage. It's not in a green cell, so it must be in one of those 4 cells, and that means that 14 cage must be a 6, 8, 14 cage, which means these cells in box 9 can't be 6, 8 or 9. So the maximum size of those 2 cells is 5 and 7. They couldn't be 5 and 7, because that would make that a 7 again. Oh, right. Now I see how this works. Okay, I could have done this before, I just didn't realise. Let's look at these 19 cages. How are they composed? Well, the way to get to this is to think about the fact that we haven't put 3 in one of them. So whichever one of these I put 3 in, the other 2 digits in the cage will have to add up to 16, and there's only one way of doing that in 2 Sudoku digits that are different. It would have to be a 7 and a 9. So one of these is 3, 7, 9, and that's interesting, because that means the other one is 5, 6, 8, and that can't be this one. Because if that's 5, 6, 8, that's going to become a Schrödinger cell. It simultaneously needs to be both 6 and 8 in order to make itself possible. So this is not 5, 6, 8, so that's 3, 7, 9. Oh, I see what this is doing. This is really cool. This is really cool, because now, remember what we said about 9 in this column. It's not in a green cell. So those cells are going to see the 9 that lives in one of those positions. So they can't be 9. So that's 9. Which means the 19 cage here needs an 8 in it. And I know that because if you try and not put 8 or 9 in a 3-cell 19 cage, you'd only be working with 7, 6s and 5s as a maximum. 7, 6 and 5 only add up to 18. So this has got 8 in it, and then 2 more digits that add up to 11, which are either going to be 4, 7 or 5, 6, but that looks possible either way round, although no. Okay, so now we're going to switch tack. I've been thinking about horizontal paths. Let's think about vertical paths. Where is the 7 in this row? And the answer is I have not got a Scooby-Doo, but I do know it's not in a green cell. So 7 is in one of those 3 cells, which not only means that that's a 3, but it means that 7 is not in this cage. So this cage must be 5, 6, 8. It's the only option left for it. It can't have 4, 7 in it. It can't have 9, and it does have 8. So that's 5, 6, 8, which doesn't actually resolve much. Yeah, okay, I think what I need to do here is be a bit more diligent about these paths, because again, the 8 in this row for the vertical path, the 8 is going to be in one of those 6 cells, so that's not 8. The 9 in row 9 is going to be in one of those 3 cells. That actually doesn't help. What about the 6 in this row? Does that help? No. The 5 in this row? Don't think so. Maybe this isn't how to do it then. the 3 in this row, does that do something to the 11 cages? Have we got an issue with the 11 cages? Where's the 1? Yes, okay. Ah, right, okay. So where's the 1 in these 11 cages? I don't know is the answer. But, oh, but I sort of do, actually. I sort of do. It's in one of those 2 cells. Because, remember that in the path that's going down the grid, the 1 is in one of those cells, because it can't be in a cage. So that there's no 1 in these 2 positions, therefore, in box 1. But also, we know the 1 in this column is down here. So that means the 1 is locked out of those 7 cells in box 1. So it's living in one of these 2 cells, where its accomplices in the crime it's committing are going to be 3 and 7, because they've got to be 2 digits that add up to 10, that aren't 6, 4, that aren't 2, 8, and aren't 1, 9. It's because of the 6, 8, 9 triple. So one of these, if this is a 1, oh, that almost does it, but doesn't quite. If that's a 1, that is a 3, 7 pair, and that 12 cage has to be 4, 8. But if that's a 1, this is a 3, 7 pair. That actually looks a bit easier for that to be the 3, 7 pair. Okay, but I can do the same trick, can't I, on 3s in this box? Because the 3 in the vertical path has got to be in one of those 4 squares. And the 3 in the horizontal path has to be actually in only one of 2 positions. So you never get 3s in those cells. So there's a 3 in one of these squares. So whichever one of these is 1, it partners with a 3 on the other side of the triomino it's in. And the 7, therefore, is in one of those cells. And don't tell me, can we do the same with 2? Yes, we can. That's really lovely. It's weird. But the 2 in the vertical path is in one of those cells. The 2 in the horizontal path is in one of those cells. So that we can rule 2 out by Sudoku from that cross in box 1. Plonk a 2 alongside its friend the 7. And therefore, we can... So we've got a 1, 3, 7 cage somewhere and a 2, 4, 5 cage somewhere. Well, I don't think I know... No, okay. We might not be able to go further because obviously these 3 cells are very influenced by 1s, 2s and 3s. But they're not going to be so influenced by 4s, 5s or anything else. Okay, alright, so maybe we can't take that forward. Okay, this feels like a time when we might want to say bobbins. Okay. Oh yeah, that was the other thing. When I was pencil marking the 3s into this column, I noticed there are only 2 positions for 3s. So if that's a 3, you've got to go 3, 4, 5. Oh, it doesn't. No, it does break. Ah, right, that's lovely. Okay, this is not a 3. At least I don't think it is. I was trying to work that out, but I don't think it can be. If that's a 3, the 4 must be there because it can't be in a cage. So it's sort of we're locked into this little alleyway. The 5 must be here. And now that must be a 5 by Sudoku because we know there's a 5 in the 19 cage. And then we've definitely got a 6, 8 pair here. And yet I need to put a 6 outside the cage in this box. And there's nowhere for it to live. So actually, I think we can say we get our first path digit, which is that digit. Oh, I was about to say, and that means I can write 4 here, but no, I can't, because 4 could be diagonal. So 4 is in one of those 2 cells, which is almost locking itself out of the 13 cage, but that could still be a 4. Oh, but okay, but where's 5 go? Yes, 5 has to be in this column and not in a cage. And capable of an orthogonal or diagonal connection with one of these two squares being a 4, so that must be 5. And then, right, then 6 is not here on this path that's wending its way this way, because this cell sees a 6. So 6 is in one of those two cells, which means 7 is in one of these three cells. 8 can't be there, because there's already a 6-8 pair in box 3. So 8's in one of those three cells. Right, so look at this weird pencil mapping we get. We get 7 here, 8 here, 9 here. That's not 8 anymore as a result, so this is an 8. The only place 8 can go in box number 9. 7 now lives in a home in, oh, whoopsie, one of those positions in box 3. 2. No, we worked out that this couldn't be the 1, didn't we? So the 2 here. Yeah, so does that have to be the 1? Oh, no, it doesn't. No, that can't be 1 anymore, because we can't get to this 3 via orthogonal or diagonal connection. So that's not 1. So 1 is in one of these two. And then I think 2 could be there, couldn't it? Or it could be here. It can't be there. So I'm going to colour that. 2 is in one of those cells. Maybe if I put the corner pencil mark in the colour, then I will realise that this is a cross-box pencil mark. Okay. How do we resolve this then? What does this mean? And do I know anything about the path from the other direction now? Like, I am... Well, yes, I do, actually. I do. I see. I've got to think about 3 again, coming down the grid. Because the question to ask is, can that be a 3? And the answer, I think, must be no. Because then this would have to be the 4, and there's a 4 pencil mark looking at this cell. So that's not the 3. So the 3 is over there somewhere. Again, I don't think I know in which cell it is. I think there's a 3 in one of these, which means there's a 4 in one of those. Let's carry on striping as we go down. There's a 4 in one of these, and then we need to put a 5. Well, we can't put the 5 there because there's already been a 5. So the 5 is in one of those cells. Let's use, what should we use for that? Yellow. And then 6. Oh, I see. Oh, right, no. This is simpler than I'm making it. The question I should be asking is, where does the 7 go in this row? Because I know I'm over here with my 3s, 4s and 5s. So I can't have the 7 over here, because to connect yellow to that domino via a diagonal or orthogonal connection is not going to work. So the only place the 7 can go is here. Now the 6 here is problematic to me, because the 6 I know is connecting to the horizontal path. Oh, that's right, that's interesting. Yes, okay. Let's just immediately consider whether this cell could ever be a 6. That's weird. No, it can't be. Oh. It doesn't matter there. Yeah, okay. I was looking at the diagonal suddenly with sort of as if the clouds had been lifted from before my eyes, because if that's a 6, it is in the 6th column and it is in the 6th row. So it would be on both paths, and that would break the rules of the puzzle. That's why I was looking at this square. That is also in the 4th column and the 4th row. So if it was a 4, it would be on both paths and break the rules of the puzzle. It can't be a 4, so that was never on the cards. But that cannot be 6 ever. So that must be the 6 that's associated with this 5 now. So that the path that's coming along in the horizontal direction now goes from here to here. And now where does this cell get a 6 from? In this row. Well, it can't be here, can it? And it can't be there, so it must be there. So that must be a 6. Whoops, if it lets me do it, which it doesn't want to. That's a 6. Which means the 7 has been pushed up. There's definitely a 5 in this yellow stripe. If that's a 6, that's a 6 by Sudoku. So that's a 5. So my 5 now is not there. It can't be there anymore. So that loses its yellowification. 5 is in one of these. That still means 4 can be in all 3. Because if that's a 5, that can be a 4. That's not a 5 for what it's worth, which is probably not very much. Can we do any better than that? I do not know. Do I know what this 13 cage is now? I know it's not got 5 in it, because this 5 sees all 4 of its digits. It's actually not got 6 in it either, because if it had 6 in it, that 6 could only go there, and these squares would have to add up to 7, and they'd have to be 1, 2 and 4, and we know there's a 4 outside of the cage in box 5. So there's no 5 or 6 in it. But there needs to be, right, so there's only one option left. It's got to be 1, 2, 3 and 7. And the reason I know that is that I can't put an 8 or a 9 in a 13k, a 4-cell 13 cage, because if I put 8 in, those 3 digits would have to add up to 5, and the minimum I can make 3 different numbers in Sudoku add up to is 6. And it can't just have low digits in it like 4, 3, 2 and 1, because 4, 3, 2 and 1 only add up to 10. So we need a high digit, which now must be a 7. Once you put a 7 in there, the other 3 digits are 1, 2, 3 and 1, 2, 3. So that's not 7 by Sudoku. Now can we eliminate, we can eliminate 3 from here, because we know purple is the 3 vertically. But none of the other digits overlap with their rows or columns. So we can't actually, I think, do any better than just noting that this is relatively constrained. Oh dear, okay. What about this row then? I've now got all the high digits and, right, 1s, 2s and 4s just left a place. Oh, and that can be a 1 because it's not caged. Okay. Right, that 12 cage is now pressured, isn't it? By the weird combination of a 3 and a yellow domino. Because that yellow domino, if I'm not very much mistaken, contains the 5 in the vertical sequence. Because we know that the 4, I mean, it's very hard to see this. I mean, I can corner pencil mark the 5 there. I can corner pencil mark the 4 there. And I can corner pencil mark the 3 here, although that's cross box. But I'll do it just for the sake of exposition. You can see 5s here and here are now looking at this 12 cage, which can't be 5, 7. It can't be 3, 9. So it is 4, 8, which means that's got an 8 at the top. That's not a 4 below it. So that's come down to 1. Oh, I thought I could suddenly say that that was going to have to be 1. But no, that could be... Hang on. If that's 2... No, it doesn't. That's lovely. That's lovely. That is 1. Because if this was 2... Where do we have to put the 1 here now in this column. But it can't connect to a 2 in column 2. So that is 1, which means that's the start of the path. So we can eliminate 1s from both of those squares. Now that doesn't tell us which of these is a 2 still, and it doesn't tell us which of these is the 137 cage bobbins. Oh dear, oh dear. Okay. So what am I meant to do now? I don't know. I suppose, okay, let's continue this line downwards. So 8, no. Oh, well, yes, of course. This being 7 has got to attach to an 8 in one of those squares. So that fills an 8 into this 19 cage, which means that's a 6 and that's a 5. So that, so that's not an 8, which puts an 8 in this square, which means that's not an 8, that's a 6. So 8 lives in one of these 3 cells in box number 2. And we've got to put 9 after the 8, and 9 can't go in a cage, so that's got to be a 9. Which means 9 in this box, look, is now definitely in one of those 3 cells. 9 in the top box is in one of 2 positions. These, okay, here's an interesting thing. If you look at the pencil marks there, we've got all the high digits catered for, 5, 6, 7, 8 and 9. So these digits must be from 1, 2, 3 and 4, but these two see a 4 in the column. So those have only got the ability to be 1s, 2s and 3s. Problem is these could still be really low, so that could still be 7. If that was 7, that would be 2. That would be... no, that doesn't work. That's not 7 actually. You can't put 7 there. It breaks this 8 cage, I believe. Because if that's 7, that's 2, and now there's no way to fill the 8 cage. So that's not 7. So by Sudoku, 7 is in a domino in box number 7. So that digit is not a high number. Right, well that's I don't know what that is actually. I was going to say, well, it's not a high number. It can't be a 1, can it, or a 2? Because if this was 1 or 2, these squares can't add up to enough to get us to 10. So this is at least a 3. It's not, which it's not actually. So it's a 4 or a 5. And it's not a 4. Because if it's a 4, how do you make that domino add up to 6? You can't, because there's a 4 here, taking the 2, 4 option out of the table, and you can't put 1, 5 in those cells because there's a 5 here, so that's a 5. That's weird. And it doesn't help me. It doesn't help me. I thought it was going to help me with the 8 cage, but it's just eliminated exactly the same option as this 3 did. Alright, so what are those 2 digits? They are adding up to 5. And they could be 2, 3 or 1, 4. I don't believe it. Okay, so that's I've still got work to do. Let's put it like that. So this cage here, this 8 cage, is either 1, 7 or 2, 6. Now that's not a 6, I can see. Have we got something that eliminates? No, this cage here is not affected by all of the naughtiness with the paths, is it? It doesn't care. Do I now know if that's a 5? No, 5's still got 3 positions in box 1. Ah! Okay. Right, so it must be something to do with the paths again now, because I'm not seeing anything I can do with these killer cages. So we go 1 to 2 to 3 to 4 to 5 to 6 to 7 to 8 to 9. Now what's, if anything, has been removed from that little selection? Not sure. And in the top row, we know there's a 1 here, which I think could be anywhere. I can't, well, yes, no, it could even be there. 1, 2, 3. I don't think that's impossible. 3, 4. Oh, the 5 has to connect to the 6. So that being a 6, it can't connect to that digit. So that's a 5. Aha! So that loses its yellowification. 5 goes in the top of the grid there. 5 goes in a domino here. Ah, got you. Right, now that one cannot have a 5 in it, this 11 cage. So that's got 5 in it, which means it is 2, 4, 5, which disambiguates my 2 and my 7. So this, which places my 1 and my 3, which are the digits that we do know about. Oh, 4, this box is getting relatively full. 5 I can place by Sudoku in this square, which depurplifies it. So I've now got purple in one of these as a 3, which means there's a 3 in one of those cells. There's a 1, 7 looking at this combination. Yeah, so this 8 cage now has to be 6, 2, and we know the order. So that's not 2. That's now 9 by Sudoku, so that must be 6 up there. This column has not got that digit in it. 4. Allowing my brain time to process it. That's a 4 by Sudoku now, so that's a 1 to make this add up in terms of maths. Those squares are 2, 3 and 8 out of absolutely nowhere. That's not the 8. Oh, that's not the 8. I was wondering how I'd got this pencil mark, but that's because it has to connect to the 7. So this square now is a 1. That's a 4. That's a 2. 4 comes out of that square, which de-orangifies it. Okay. 3, I think, still got both options available. 2 is now in one of those 3. Let's colour that in, just to make ourselves feel like we're making progress. What about those digits then? They are 1, 4 and 9 in some order. Can we do any better than that? Apparently not. That's a 2. Oh, okay, that's huge. That being a 2 must be the path, mustn't it? So now we know how the path starts, at least, on the left-hand side. Although that's not really done a great deal. Those squares there have got to be a 6, 9. Ah, that's good. So that's a 6, that's a 9. So these squares have got to be 3 and 7, which is resolved. And that's 3 in the corner. That's 3 in the spotlight, losing its religion. So that's 7. That seems to be 5. These squares are 1, 9. And from this, we will deduce the following. Come on, deduce. Oh, where does 4... Right, here's a little trick. 4s, look. We've got a 4 domino here and a 4 domino here. So the question we should ask is, where does the 4 go in this row? And the answer to that is it's got to be in one of those 3 cells, but looking at column 9, it's also got to be in one of those 3 cells. And the only cell that meets both of those criteria is that one, which means that's got to be the 3, because we need a 3 to appear after the 4 on the path. So the path is now almost done, look. It's got to do this. We don't know where the 9 goes yet. We do now know that that's not capable of being read. There's a 2 in one of these cells, which means there's a 2 in one of those cells, which means that's not a 2. Not a 2, so it's 1 or 7 now. And the 1 is going to be in one of these 3, well, one of those 2 cells, so that's definitely worth a pencil mark as well, or a bit of colouring. These 2 squares are a 1, 9 pair, which is going to have to be resolved by... Yeah, that's going to have to be resolved by... You see, this is a deadly pattern of 1s and 9s. So what is it about the puzzle, the internal logic of the puzzle, that's going to tell us which way round this goes? Well, it's going to have to be the path. And the only way I can see that that works is if this is not an 8. Because if that was an 8, either of these could be a 9. And that wouldn't resolve this. So I think that's going to end up being an 8. in the finished grid to connect to a 9 here, but I won't use uniqueness to solve the puzzle. What do I mean by uniqueness? Well, imagine there was no path criteria in this puzzle. There was no such thing as a path. Well, then how would we distinguish between this solution, in which column 2 has a 1 and a 9, column 9 has a 1 and a 9, row 5 has a 1 and a 9, and row 6 has a 1 and a 9. This box has a 1 and a 9, this box has a 1 and a 9, and this solution, where it's still the same case, nothing has changed. These cells, if you like, sit outside the rest of the puzzle. They don't affect the logic in the rest of the puzzle at all, and therefore the puzzle would have 2 solutions. So we know that there must be something in the internal logic of the puzzle that forces these to resolve in one way, and that can only be the path, and that's why I know this is going to be an 8. But I won't assume that that's an 8, because I know there's a unique solution. I do these as if I'm testing them on the channel effectively. And that requires me to prove there is a unique solution, which is a higher bar. And it's something I'm failing to do. Right, so what can I do now? Maybe I've got to do Sudoku. I know it's controversial, but where does 6 go? 6 goes here in row 3. Which means this square here is a 1 or a 7, which is interesting because that is resolved, look, by the fact that this 6 has to connect to a 7 in the horizontal direction, and the 7 is in one of those 2 cells. So that's got to be 1, that's got to be 7. 7 comes out of these squares, which now form a 1, 2, 3 triple. So if we look at this box in a bit more detail, we've got to put 4, 7, 8 and 9 in. So that square is not 4, it's not 7 or 9, that's a naked single, that's an 8, which places the 8 down below it, and therefore we can complete the path. It's got to do that, which is rather lovely. We've got sort of a ski slope coming down, all diagonals coming down the right hand side path. Now, oh look, this 8 is also disambiguating my 8 and my 4, which is also giving me a 4 here, which we know has to be on the path, which means that this path's all getting, this is less like a ski slope, more like a mountain profile, isn't it? Now, okay, so I have not put 7 into box 5, it's got to go there, and that's got to be the 9 therefore. So in this row, we've not put a 2 into it. I think that's got to go here. So that's going to be the 8. That's going to be the 2, which we know is on the path coming down the grid. So let's get rid of the red there. The 1, this being a 1 forces the 1 to be there. So there we go. Have we actually done? We have done. We've done the vertical path. And we should hopefully be able to do some Sudoku off the back of that. This square here has got to be a 4. In the row, we still need 3, 7 and 9, don't we? Can we do that? 7 in that row can only go in one position. So these become a 3, 9 pair, which we can fill in. We need to put 2 and something, 2 and 8 into those squares. So this is all getting done by Sudoku. We need 4 and something over here. My scanning has gone to pot 9 and 4. So how is this resolving itself? Down here we need 3 and 7, don't we? Yeah, okay. And just as we predicted, this has become an 8 by Sudoku, and that is going to fix the path, because now the 9 has to go here in order to be orthogonally connected to the 8, which resolves my 9 and my 1 on this side. This 1 is going to give me my 3 and my 7, my 2, my 1, my 2 and my 3, and all that's left to be done now is to connect this all up like that. So it crosses very late. And we get a little sort of massif here, and then the ski run going down there, although there's rather too much white stuff on the ski run coming down here. if what I read about the Alps is true at the moment, in that they are all green. So I've totally messed this up by not making this red line green. But what a beautiful puzzle that is. I loved that. That was really interesting. It wasn't... Was it easy? No, it wasn't easy. Not for me, at least. I like the ideas about trying to pinpoint how you could have a connected path of 1 to 9 down the columns and the rows, and the logic that led to, which was really... It was just very interesting. And it was a good match of that logic with normal Sudoku logic and a bit of killer logic on top. Yeah, just a joy from start to finish. Blobz, take a bow. Loved it. Let me know in the comments how you got on. I hope you enjoyed the puzzle too. And we'll be back later with another edition of Cracking the Cryptic.